Hey guys, my name is Ricky. I'm a flight instructor, commercial pilot, entrepreneur, and your host of the Positive Rate Aviation podcast. Welcome to season 2. This season, we're going to continue our climb into the art of leadership, growth, and success through the lens of aviation. We're going beyond the basics. We're going to be exploring new horizons in personal development, mindset, and the strategies that help performers stay above the turbulence. From cockpit wisdom to real-world leadership lessons, each episode is designed to help you level up, lead with purpose, and keep your life and career in a positive rate of climb. So buckle up. It's time to set your heading, add some power, continue your ascent towards your full potential. Hello, aviators, and welcome back to the Positive Rate Aviation podcast. I'm your host, Ricky Skinner, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. I'm very excited about this one. I am joined by Mark Ladwig. Some of you may or may not recognize this gentleman. He's got a very interesting background and story that I'm really excited to discuss and have him kind of open up about this evening. So first of all, Mark, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you coming on and giving me some of your time.
Ricky, thank you for having me. And that's the great thing about aviation. There's so many paths to learn to fly. There's so many ways to be a pilot and to celebrate flying and to be part of the flying community. So I'm glad you could have me. And it's great to share another way, another person that's out here flying with us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And as they always say, man, your network is your your net worth is your net worth. I butchered that there. Um, and with that,
No, I
man,
100% agree with you. I mean, the people around you really make you and help support you. And actually, they're a good reflection of you.
yeah, absolutely. And so for everyone that's gonna see this too, big thing with aviation, as we all hear, is who you know. It's about who you know more often than not. So the way that Mark and I actually connected is something I'd like to talk about too. I've been trying for years, well, really since I came into aviation 5 years ago, to challenge myself to get out to different events and to do just that, right? To network and grow my network. So we actually met a few weeks ago back at Sun and Fun, which
Fun
was
and fun, 2026.
absolutely. So yeah, I was able to fortunate enough to be invited to fly down uh, in a Bonanza. So shout out to Patrick when you see this, man. Thanks for thanks for the invite, dude. But yeah, it was a great time, experience of a lifetime. So for all you guys watching, get out there, hit the road, shake hands, talk to people. You never know who you might meet. And yeah, this gentleman right here was yes, for sure one of the more interesting people I had the pleasure of meeting in my time down there in Lakeland. So yeah, without further ado, man, we'll just kind of get straight into it. Yeah, Mark is I said you may or may not recognize him. So he is an Olympic figure skater as well as a pilot, flight instructor, entrepreneur. So we're gonna get into all that. We're gonna unpack some of that. Hopefully he'll be able to share some cool stories along his journey. And yeah, man, we'll get into it. Um, so yeah, mention your background with figure skating, right? So most people probably know you from that first, but at what point did aviation become more than just an interest? Like, what was your why to kind of making that move to aviation?
And that's a great point, Ricky. Aviation caught me first. I grew up in North Dakota. We have air bases up there. I'd see F-16s flying around, and I just thought it was cool. We had a lot of local fly-ins too. I remember going to one just down the, 20 minutes away, and getting in some helicopter and doing a helicopter ride and putting my hand out. It was one of like I think now it's an R-22. It has an open bubble and put your hand out, and flies it out. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy, and I got the bug for it. But the thing, that excitement of flying is actually something that I get in figure skating because I do jumps, and so I jump in the air and I fly. It's only a half a second,
Yeah,
it takes you see figure skating, they set up all the way around the rink, and then they're a jump in figure skating, even the longest jump. You're hearing about quads all the time now, from Ilya, and you're hearing from triple axels from Amber, who are our gold medalist here from Torino last month. And I mean, those jumps only last half a second. But I will tell you, the rush of that half a second will carry you. You land it, you're running edge coming out. It's amazing. just like the first time you stuck that landing, when you first time you put a plane on a runway and you've hit the center line or a power off 180 if you're in the commercial stage, for me as a figure skater, the double axle is kind of like the where we separate. You're an elite skater if you can do 2.5 turns on the ice.
Mm.
And I think as an aviator, if you're on the downwind and your instructor pulls your power and says, okay, hit that strip, within 100 feet, no engine, pitch power, and you're doing a whole 180 and all the way down. I think it's very similar. There's a lot
Mm.
of congruency in ice skating. I was telling someone the other day, I was like, a rink dimensions for hockey that you see on TV, the dimensions are pretty well set, just like, there's certain widths of runway, there's certain lengths generally.
Right.
We have IACO who has everything out there. We have the same taxiway markings, whether I'm over in Europe or whether I'm here in the US or whether I'm in Canada or Mexico, if it's an international, especially, the markings are all the same, which is great. And when I go to an ice rink, I expect the door, there's lines on the ice that are the same. So there's a lot of this where I can show up at any rink and feel comfortable and skate my program because it's about the same size ice. Whereas
Mm.
if I go to a new airport, I can expect that runway width. I can expect a length to land in. I have to know what it is for my aircraft and performance, but you know, there's a lot of similarities that I found coming from ice skating that I could apply in aviation.
Yeah, man. You it's funny, you actually just answered a couple of my later questions that I had for you right there. So
Oh man,
that
sorry.
no, that's awesome. I love it, man. So kind of getting away from aviation for a second. I want to definitely dive a little bit deeper into this figure skating. Because
Hmm.
growing up playing sports myself, obviously I didn't make it to, the elite level where you competed, but I'm pretty competitive by nature, so I like discussing sports. So talk to me about your start. Like, what age did you start skating? And then kind of talk to me
Hmm.
about that ascension into, to get you where you ultimately ended up, which was competing, at the Olympics.
So a lot of access to frozen ice in North Dakota in the winter. We have
Yeah.
outdoor warming houses, and they have little earthen berms, and they just pour water out. And I'm growing up in the '80s. It's just frozen for 3 months of the year, and your parents would be go out and skate or go burn off some energy. And then I came through, learned to skate, and learned to play hockey, and I was a goalie for a little bit, and then
Mm.
it just didn't work out. I wasn't. We're in a town in North Dakota where people have Stanley Cup rings that were in my generation, so to fail out of an amazing system at that point was great. But it found me a love of figure skating. It was a great group of people. I still liked going fast. That razor's edge.
Yeah.
With the blade is so sharp, and it can cut people. It does. You see some accidents with that. And
Mm.
I moved after when I graduated. I was very social. I like talking to you. I mean, that's how we hit it up at Sun and Fun. It was
Yeah.
like, hey, how are you?
Yeah,
I mean,
for
we had a
sure.
whole conversation, and it's just two cool people having a conversation. And figure skating has a great community of people, very, very outgoing, from all walks of life. And so, I moved to Delaware after high school and skated for a couple of years. My partner for that time is now a Pulitzer Prize winning writer. She was with the LA Times, helped break some stories, and she does a lot in criminal justice reform and great. And I'm really proud of her. She got a new memoir out, and so you just find these people that are just amazing stories and amazing parts. And then yeah, when I moved to Florida, that's when I skated with Amanda. And Amanda is actually this person here doing a desk bar. If you look behind my shoulder here, my
Yeah.
wife actually, who is not my partner, my wife Janet bought this from the guy who was like trying to be all sneaky. He'd taken a picture and flipped it, and it was totally us. Like my wife's looking at it like that's my husband right here. And so she got me this awesome photo for our thing, so I can always remember. And when people are like yourself, I can like, well, that's a death spiral. It's really hard, and you can see. I mean, Amanda's working really hard. Her whole
Yeah.
body is like this whole yoga torsion tension, and she's balancing on that blade all the way through my arm. I'll pivot a little bit more to the right. You can see, and I have to be balanced. I'm like almost leaning over.
Yeah.
It's like a whole like, wall squats are a lot of people do, and they like, oh, I can hold that for a couple seconds, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm doing that holding a person on the other arm, and
Yeah.
yeah. So figure skating what I did is pair skating, and another way to think of it is like the decathlon because we'll have this maneuver, we'll have the jumps I talked about, we'll have spins together, we'll have spins separate. I'll have
Mm.
another one. It's called twist lift where I throw her in the air, she spins, and I have to catch her and set her down very gently, and then you're graded on how well you execute that. We always laugh in aviation, any landing you can walk away from is a good one. But, in figure skating, it's like, well, was that a +5 really good or was it a
Yeah.
-5? So, we're always, worried about, how it looks always. So.
Yeah. So this is really good because you got me thinking about things I actually didn't consider before. Um, so of course you did a lot of pair. You had a partner.
Mhm.
You're skating with partners.
Yep.
Is there a certain amount of time that typically a skater um, must skate solo before they're able to like do the pair skating, or is it just kind of like if that's your thing, you do it and you go with it?
I wish I was as cool as Ilya, who's our, quad god who does all these quads, but no, I didn't have all of that. So I was a decent skater and I had some triples, but I didn't have every triple, which is what you need to be competitive in the singles event.
Hmm.
But I really found that I could network, I could work with people, and that I liked that variation. So I learned to do a backflip in high school because at the time I was on the track team doing pole vaulting, and they had these big squishy mats, and I was like, well, if I just throw myself a few times, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And then we had a guy who came to town who was a professional, and he was doing backflips, and I was like, I want to do that. And he goes, yeah, yeah, whatever, kid. And I was like, well, I'm 18, and watch this. And I did a standing back tuck, and he was like, oh, well, never mind. Yeah, we can teach you. So it was a
Yeah.
fun little trick to have in your pocket for years, and I did it a lot of different ice shows. They were like, okay, Mark, do that thing, and you go over and you flat backflip like Scott Hamilton. And
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
So how much time between the time that you actually, began like seriously competitive, skating until you found yourself competing at the Olympics? Like what was that timeline?
Oh, and there's a good book out there, and they talk about 10,000 hours of practice.
Right.
You hear about in aviation, oh, there's a 10,000-hour pilot. And anybody who says I'm a 10,000-hour pilot, you just like, oh. And if you take, I started really trying to be a pair skater at about 2000, 1999, and I made the Olympics in 2010. And if you take that with really hard, practice, I'm showing up at 8 a.m. practices. I'm skating a solid 5 hours on the ice, 3 hours off the ice,
Mm,
nutrition, everything else, and then
right.
working other jobs to pay for it and everything. But I'm doing that 5, 6 days a week, plus weekends. I'm doing miscellaneous skating jobs there, so I'm doing more skating. I was doing more than an hour a day easily,
Yeah.
every year. And so I would say by the time I got to Olympics, because I was averaging over an hour a day when I was back home, 1994 to 1999. I had a running log, but instead of running the miles you did, I wrote how many hours I skated, and I was averaging over an hour a day back at home. So
Mm,
you can amp that up. So yeah, we were probably 12 to 13,000 hours of skating in our careers by the time we hit the Olympics.
wow. Wow. Um, so what did Olympic level training like? There's a lot of parallels. We kind of briefly touched on it. There's a lot of parallels between that skating and aviation. But is there anything you can speak to specifically, like that you notice is like a direct parallel or correlation between the two?
I'll tell you one uncorrelated. That's one thing in figure skating. If I'm a coach, I specialize. I specialize in this and specialize in that. And I know you're a CFI and I'm a CFI. And
Mm,
we take students, and they might be a commercial student, they might be a private student, they might be a 12-year-old with a dream of getting their private right on their first day of eligibility. Uh, those are different students, and so that's one of the things I noticed that's disconnected in aviation is I don't see a lot of specialty other than like spin training is probably the only one I'm really like. This is a guy that's got a 150 and he just likes spinning people. Okay, put your hands on the dash. 13 revs. Ah!
mm.
You know,
Yeah.
those are the specialists. Tail whale's another one. Seaplane seems to be one that there's some seaplane people, but the big thing for aviation is that's similar to figure skating is you got to know the rules.
Hmm.
And figure skating, you want to go out and do an extra spin, and if that's not to the rules, it didn't do you anything. And
Hmm.
if you do something in aviation, it's not by the rules, you're gonna get a phone number,
Right.
the dreaded phone number.
Yeah. Yeah. The number you don't
Um,
want.
actually, Actually, it's funny because there's been a number of times I've been on frequency in the I'm under the Bravo of Tampa and nestled in. So I train out of Sarasota, St. Pete, Albert Whitted, Vandenberg, VDF, but I go all over West and Southwest Florida. But sometimes I've been laughing where I'll have a pilot who call up an approach and they'll ask for clearance into the Bravo, which they didn't get, and they were,
Yeah.
and they'll be like, my favorite line from approach is, "Well, you're already in the Bravo, so yeah, cleared into it." They don't want the phone number, they don't want to deal with it. They're like, "You're following the shoreline, and you just picked the wrong altitude." They're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, you're already in it, but whatever."
Yeah. Wow. Like, hey, you're already here, man. So just go with it.
Yeah,
Um,
not
so
causing me a problem yet.
Yeah. So obviously aviation and skating are both like precision, right? They're strict
Yes.
disciplines. Would you say that one is a bit more humbling than the other?
I think both are humbling. I mean, and especially being I'm learning to be an elite pilot.
Hmm.
I'm in that process and in that phase, and it is humbling to come back to your roots and be like, I'm failing or I screwed up. I do Civil Air Patrol. I'm an instructor pilot with them, and I had a go around that was called for, and I'll never forget the pilot with me. Very 10,000 hours, former airlines and everything.
Hmm.
And in this checkout flight, they can be a resource to you. And they called the go around. I did the go around and I bumped the flaps, but I thought I moved it just from 30 to 20. Oh boy, I put it all the way up by accident. And I'm
Mm.
sitting there pitching power. All of a sudden, I'm like in a soft field takeoff over the runway, just watching that airspeed, keeping it level. Because we had some crosswinds that I was dealing with, and it went around and got fine. And we got back up to 1,000 feet, and it's cool as a cucumber. All of a sudden, I hear, I could have done that for you. I was like, oh man. I was like, oh, I forgot. And
Yeah.
go around. I'm like, I have to do it all. And yeah, so that's one thing, pair skating wise, I always had a partner, and Amanda was really good. She'd write everything out, and I would do a lot of setup for shows, and she'd write the set list of all the elements, and we'd do the one numbers for maybe a weekend, and then never do them again. For me, it would be,
Yeah.
and she'd write these out, and I'd be doing it, and that's where we'd work together in CRM, and maybe that's where I found the love of checklists because
Yeah.
whatever she wrote, I did.
Yeah. Yeah. So that made me think about something else. So when we like
Okay.
pressure, right? There's obviously a
Hmm.
lot of pressure, competitive, athletes, right, of any sport. Would you say that you felt more pressure, when competing in an event, or do you feel more pressure, for example, during that CFI check ride where you're having to present a ground lesson to a DPE?
I mean, that's where I have my standard check ride binder. You can see I
Yeah.
got stuff ready to go,
Oh
and
yeah.
that's what I learned early, even in the private. I wasn't probably my best. I remember the DPE being like, well, it was close, but you're gonna get it.
Hmm.
And and I did much better on the commercial, and apparently I was very verbal, like a CFI candidate. And the DPE was like, well, I had to keep reminding myself because I had learned like I was too quiet there, and um, I remember you have to do the slip to land on private, and I put in the slip the first time, and I accidentally did it. I got a little saturated. It's the last. It was one of the last maneuvers before. I hit a seagull, and I have no flaps, and
Right.
and it got a little squirrely, and I was like, wait, reset. I was like, I got this. And the DPE, I could see the hands moving over to the controls, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh no, I got it. Hold
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I got it in the right way. That
Hmm.
opposition.
Yeah.
But the pressure is pretty much the same. I'll be honest. I feel like I'm sweating bullets both times. What I've learned over the course is, get your preparation started early. You
Hmm.
know, cramming can only get you so far.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a last minute hiccup. It never fails. Something's always wrong. I remember a check ride um, for one certificate where, you're ticking the you're ticking the fuel gauge, and yep, okay, it came back, and we're going to monitor it.
Hmm.
It's not in op, but we're going to keep an eye on it. If it does go or stops moving, we'll go back and stuff like that. So you just gotta, there's always going to be something. There's a good video of me, you talking about pressure. I was, I was my own AMP. So I did the sharpening, I did the fitting, I did the fixing escape. And it's one of the humbling ones too, is I was in Taiwan doing a program. I did my first jump side by side with my partner. We both rotated. And when I came down, my boot broke, and
Mm.
I'm the guy that puts it all together. And I felt it. It was like it's a little weak, but I take a lot of onus on it. And I felt bad for my partner. I was like, oh man, this is. I feel like this is on me. And she was great and supportive. And then I had a buddy from Canada run down named Rudy. Rudy came down, gave me. We had the same boots, so he gave me his boot. He just skated, and it's all wet. And I ended up skating the program in his boot. The jump was over, so everything else, and the way we do our boots, it was so different. But it'd be like saying, okay, you've always trained as a Piper Archer. Okay, you're gonna go fly this check ride in a Cessna. Go for it.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same maneuvers. It's the same maneuvers. You can
Yep.
do it. They're just gonna be a little squirrely. You're gonna have
Yeah.
to be a little tighter.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I can definitely see that those parallels. So it's kind of, well, so I guess we could sum a lot of that up by, your background kind of gave you that mental fortitude, if you will, to kind of really prepare you for those, levels of flight training.
Yeah, I think resilience of those people that get in a stuck or in a rut, they hit a plateau, which is normal in training.
Hmm.
I think it's natural to think every progression is going to be linear. Even for
Right.
myself, I found myself a few times in that trap. It's like I should be better at this point.
Hmm.
I think my favorite one was I was in a flight school and just got back on an instrument flight. I was like, "Yeah, we did our first hold." I was like, "That was cool." He's like, "Oh, you blew the hold. You blew the protected side. You didn't do this." And then they kind of walked off, and I was like, "Oh, I sucked."
Hmm.
I thought I was hot stuff, and
Yeah.
no. And that's same as, you might land five axles in a row, and then you go to your big competition, you fall on it, and it's like, I know I could do this.
Hmm.
So I think addressing, the non-perfection, and there's a lot of with mental health. I mean, athletes, you're hearing about it all the time, mental health, being able to prepare to, and you're hearing it with pilots now too. And that's again those parallels. It's like it's okay. I was actually on one of the cadet programs today in a webinar with one, and it was funny because they were talking about the way they've made pilots safer at the airlines, where if say you had a big fight with your spouse or kid or whatever, and you did your first leg of the day and you're supposed to have two more legs, but you're just not feeling it, you're off. They were like, there's a no harm, no foul. You call, you can't do it every day, but like if you
Right.
really, you got 100 plus people in the back or 30 people in the back, they give you that forgiveness. And
Yeah.
I've had that same with students as a CFI. They come in and I'm just looking at them. I was like, did you sleep okay last night?
Hmm.
Not so much. I was like, well, maybe we should adjust our plans for today,
Yeah.
this weather and whatnot. So that's all that CRM and the I'm safe, and and that's how we can be mentors to others. And it's the
Yeah.
same when I do with figure skating. Um, I got to go to the Olympics last time as the AMP and sharpen people's skates, and
Right.
I've been to a games. It's nice when you can have people around, and I'm an athlete. I got the ring.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then they're like, oh, how was your time? I was like, it's different. We had McDonald's, but chicken nuggets share, break a lot of bread for people around the world. But
Yeah. Yeah.
be there for these athletes at our games, and to be a resource and to lean on, and there's just so much about an Olympics, which is so much like a check ride. You feel like everything's on it, and at the same time, you still got to breathe, you still got to put on your
Hmm.
pants one leg at a time, and just fly it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's interesting, man. So it kind of leads me to my next point. So here at Positive Rate, our mantra is leading others to climb to their full potential through the lens of aviation. So with that in
Nice.
mind, what I wanted to ask you was, what does discipline look like at an elite level that most people you think misunderstand?
All right, you gotta say that one more time. I'm gonna think about it real hard.
So yeah, you're good. So discipline, right? So what does discipline look like at an elite level, right? Someone with your experience that you think most people understand or misunderstand about discipline.
I have this other one here, this picture here, but um,
And we can circle back.
no, it's perfect. The thing for me about discipline is people take discipline like, your parents are disciplining you. They hear that word and they associate it. Shakespeare's always great, a rose is a rose by any name, basically,
Mm,
paraphrase. But when we say discipline, what I hear, and I think that has helped me with success, was the regular application. That doesn't mean perfection. That doesn't mean it has to be perfect. It means a learned application. Um, Blanking on the word. It's a resilience. It's a showing up every day. It's not about being first in line every time or being the best every time. It's
mm,
about showing up. The recognition will come and the improvement will come with, bringing yourself present to it. So when I hear discipline, what is discipline about? It's about regularly showing up, regularly applying yourself, regularly trying and putting in that effort, trying to
mm,
make today this much better. I always tell a lot of athletes, I was like, if you can be 10% better, think of a ladder. You're trying to, I know. Hey, it's okay. I'll let him out. Let's go say hi to mom. Sorry, dog break.
no, you're good, man.
Awesome. Um, So the thing about discipline is I tell athletes, if you can be 10% better today, and if you think of it as like a ladder, I'm just trying to go to the first floor of a house with a ladder. 10% is like a rung, and a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit. And it is amazing where on a ladder you get halfway up and you look around and you go, oh, I'm higher than I was, and you see, and I think of my kids and I'm, Christmas light stringing, and I'm like, you want to go up on the roof? And they get halfway up and go, oh, I'm so far up. And it's like, oh, you only took it one step at a time. And I think that's the big thing for our stuff is that when I hear discipline, there's some people that get a negative connotation. I hear it's regular application, it's regular trying, it's bringing your whole self to it.
Consistency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that, that's the
Continue.
word. There it is. Perseverance.
Mm-hmm.
Perseverance.
Yeah.
It's showing up when you don't want to, it's showing up when you do want to, showing up when the weather's not there and you got to do a ground.
Yeah.
This is where when you pivot and make the best of it, well, I've already done, and I've seen so many, I want to say athletes, but so many students that'll show up and it's like, so what's the weather? Oh, the weather's crap. You want to sim? No, I'm going to go home. You had me, you had us ready to go. We could go over stuff. I might expose you to things.
Right.
And there's a lot of students that pivot. It's just not right.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it in older pilots too. Oh, I only fly when the weather's perfect.
Mm.
Well, then, you're not going to fly so many days.
Right. And man, can I be vulnerable for a second?
Yeah, for sure.
You actually just took me back to my days as a student, and you know, I think a reason for that could be sometimes human nature could be like us finding any excuse or any reason we can to get out of a situation. So if the weather's not perfect, if it's just, maybe 1 or 2 knots above what I'm typically used to landing in, then okay, I'll take the opportunity to not fly. Versus like, you know what? Kind of to your point, I have this instructor with me, you know, why not challenge myself? Why not see if we can, this is obviously, or this is probably not beyond his or her capability. So why not go up with an instructor, and challenge myself to get that 1% better? And I say transparent because I put myself back at, in that moment in time. And, I have to admit there were probably times where I could have flown, but I didn't, maybe out of just fear, self-doubt. That imposter syndrome is real, but what kind of going back to what we said before, I just didn't quit. I just kept showing up. And if you would have asked me 4 years ago if I'd be here talking to you as a fellow CFI, I would have said no way.
Yeah, but you kept a positive rate on your
Yeah,
progress.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and when you gave me the card and we were talking, I was like, I could see you got it. And it's not a mindset you have to trick yourself into. It's literally the basic application of showing up.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so much less that, there's a lot of people that they make it to
Hmm.
be this big thing, and there's a lot of words around it. Perseverance is probably that was the word I was looking for. And I used to, when I was a kid, I had you have these beautiful ones, the positive rate ones. This is the Teddy Roosevelt quote, the man in the arena is the only one that really
Hmm.
has the perspective. But I have another one, and I forget where I put it, but it's the same. It was one of those positive ones from the late 90s, and it was a guy running up the steps, and it was just about perseverance, and that's all it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No,
And
that's
I
really,
and I
yeah.
actually, my son came in just a minute ago, and it just reminded me. I gave him one of the posters that I found for him, which was broken crayon still color.
Mm.
Just because it ain't perfect, it'll still work.
Mm. Yeah. And I think that's huge to, for anybody that's going to see this, to take away from an instructor, because I think maybe more often than not, students feel that we're looking for perfection when in all actuality, that's not the case, because none of us are perfect, right? I tell students all the time, I'm like, hey man, like I might slam one in every now and then. I just, you know, none of us are perfect. So it's just, continuing to show up, like you said, and apply yourself.
One thing I like to tell students too is every DPE I've ever sat with, the same conversation begins, and I think maybe we gloss over it, but it starts with, "We're here today at this check ride because your instructor thinks you're ready, and so I think you're ready, and I'm just to verify. This is
Correct.
just a double check for all intents and purposes. you're a private pilot. This is your and most I've heard different stories, but every DPE I go with, it's PIC time, my first time. So I'm in a
Mm-hmm.
multi-engine, PIC time. DPE says it's so. I'm in my private plane first time with them as a passenger. I'm PIC.
Yep.
And making all the decisions. Yeah, I had a fun one in the multi. I was like, the winds were 90-degree crosswinds, 15 knots, in a plane that can go up to 25. And I was looking at it, and I did a miss. I was like, we're gonna go downwind. Dang it. I had to make the decision, not so
Yeah.
many hours in a plane, and I did it, and I managed it. But it's one of those things again, like we talked about. It wasn't perfect, but
Yeah.
And then a debrief. I had this amazing multi-engine DPE giving me, oh, you should use the engines a little bit more. They can do that. And then we were
Right.
talking about it, and I was like, because all my training had been straight down the pipe or no wind. So
Right. Right.
I was like, and I'm still at that stage. I might be a certificated commercial pilot with multi-engine, but I'm going to go find friends that can do it better. I'm not going to go, hey, I can rent this solo, and I'm going to find, CFIs to go with me, and we'll do some, I'm going to do the basics. I'm out of, currency anyways for my 90 days on the multi-engine. So, when
Same.
I get to that, it's going to be leveling up with somebody that does it more regularly.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, none of us are above, um, seeking a second pair of eyes and, taking someone who's maybe a little bit more current with us, right? Because kind of like you mentioned,
Hmm.
like myself, I'm actually well beyond my 90-day currency for the multi as well. So
Yeah.
so you kind of talked about what I was going to get into next, but more specific with some of your ratings. So obviously CFI, you double I as well,
Yep.
CF double I, and are you an MEI?
I am not yet.
Okay.
I'm one of those ones where I was like, I did it in stages. Like maybe I was just proficient enough to be an MEI, but to have the rating and I don't have a plane around me, I know I'll maybe cram a little bit, but I'm keeping up on it.
Yeah.
I like to put a little notification in my calendar every month. It just says MEI. I go back and read all my notes and remember about, asymmetric thrust and all that.
Hmm.
I took mine in a Duchess, which was great because counter rotating, no real,
Yeah.
critical engine,
Hmm.
which when you
Yep.
guys get there, that's a lot more,
Oh
it's
yeah.
leg day no matter which engine you fail.
Yeah. Kind of like you. I did mine in the Seminole. So, yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Counter
Yeah.
rotating, which means they go like
Yep.
that.
Yep. Smackfum was my best friend.
Yeah. Very nice.
So let's go back real quick. So you mentioned flying Civil Air Patrol. So for anyone who's not familiar, would you mind speaking on that real quick on as to what that is?
Absolutely. So I started as a cadet, and it was a great opportunity for me and my buddies in high school in North Dakota. Nowadays, as you know, there's not only the 400 megahertz that's an ELT, but which is much easier to see by satellite, but we still have 1.5, and every now and again, plane lands hard, it'll go off, or plane will, crash. We had one that went down off Australia the other day, and Civil Air Patrol is an auxiliary in the United States of the U.S. Air Force. So we are a civilian portion. We're all volunteers. When I go fly with anyone in there, there's no pay for it, but it is something where we're about preparedness. We teach aerospace education. So, like at Sun and Fun, you saw the Civil Air Patrol planes. We had two of them, right? I
Mm-hmm.
was fortunate enough to fly in one of those planes and have them stationed in static. And at Sun and Fun, how many planes were you able to climb into? Not too many, right?
Yeah.
Like most of the flight schools are all closed. Civil Air Patrol is one of the few ones that had the doors open. And one of the fellow members, he brought a power unit to power up the G1000 so people could button push, go
Mm.
in there and turn it. And then actually, the member and I were laughing. He was like, "Hey, did you know our ADSB was on?" I was like, "Oh." So when you watch the Sun and Fun flying away, I know exactly where the Civil Air Patrol is, and it sits there on the field and spins around in a circle because he's got it on. But
Yeah.
again, it's about, you know, we're about respect. We're about, helping the community, personal development. I mean, everything that, you're talking about a CFI. And the biggest part for me now that I'm an adult, and yes, I became a Civil Air Patrol pilot, and then I became a Civil Air instructor pilot. I'm actually studying. You gave me a great break tonight. I've been studying all day. I'm doing a check pilot
Okay.
clinic this coming weekend. So I'm going to go and potentially be somebody that'll take a pilot like you. And our proficiency is every year we have not a check ride, but it's like we call it the Form 5. And it's basically getting you, helping you get ready and remind yourself of all the standards you have. So I'm a commercial pilot, so I have to do 50-degree steep turns. You're a private pilot, you do 45. But we still have a lot of the emergency stuff, and you'll see it on a lot of other podcasts out there. They'll talk, because when's the last time you tried an engine out emergency, picking your, get to the best airspeed, best place to land, pulling out your checklist, like, oh, I always keep it in the back. Is it really going to be feasible to grab that if I got a fire up here?
Right.
Stuff like that. And so this is with Civil Air Patrol, it really, I find, elevates my redundancies for safety, my checklist usage, just the whole thing. I've really enjoyed it, and it's a great
Mm.
community of flyers, and then we get to help out the community. We, like I mentioned, ELT searches. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's photograph missions where we have some storm damage and we'll have to go take a look. We do a lot of preparedness for that. We have FLIR cameras we work with, which can go along the beach, and they can help FEMA out really well. I know
Mm.
that they've helped with up in the mountains when we had issues up in Asheville. They were up there.
Yeah. Hmm.
They locate crashes, which it still happens every now and again. America is great for that with general aviation. I've been
Yeah.
fortunate enough in my travels to be able to fly this year. I was flying in Prague. I've flown in the Netherlands. I've flown in Spain. It's kind of funny to me because, like, we're the only plane, and like in America, there'd be like five planes. I'm like,
Yeah.
looking around. I mean, I've been 5, 6 deep in the pattern of the non-towered, and everybody's doing fine and it's
Yeah.
working. They're doing the calls for giving forgiveness to the new student. We can tell, when you stood by downwind.
Yeah.
Over there, I'm like, I'm the only one. It's kind of cool,
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. So you flying over there, you're probably like, I really don't even need to turn my Sentry on.
I bet you do. Yes, you
Yeah.
would. Yeah. No, but Civil Air Patrol has been a great thing for me, and I can recommend it for pilots. It does have, some basic militaristic aspects where you're gonna have to wear a uniform. For us as adults, we're wearing a polo, but it's making sure you're actually wearing the polo, and then you can't wear jeans. You got to wear, gray slacks,
Right.
and it gives you that regularity, just like you should use a checklist every time.
Right.
So it's some basic stuff and it's helpful. And, there are great cadet programs. My son joined the cadet squadron, and he's talked about marching and doing honor color guard, and, great things for kids to do, and organization. And they have a flight, and then there's a flight commander, and, they
Mm.
get to lead cadets and build that leadership.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Is there a minimum age to join?
14, is
Okay.
really the good place to start.
Okay.
And they do get orientation flights. So that's one of the things as a Civil Air Patrol pilot. I can be an orientation pilot. I'm looking to going up to Selma, Alabama next month. They're having a 2-day orientation, like, mega event. So I'll fly up there with another pilot, and then we'll trade off sorties,
Okay.
keep us fresh. And a nice thing too, when you talk about people ready to go to the airlines, one of the things with Civil Air Patrol, I have a flight release officer. I have to call a person. I'll go through the whole risk management. I talk about the weather,
Mm.
so, you're getting used to some procedures and flows that you might use at airlines.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome, dude. Um, so with this like, vast collection, I can't think of a more appropriate term, but basically a group of students that you've probably encountered, right? So you've got your Civil Air Patrol,
Hmm.
teenagers, you've got, young adults, older, probably some older pilots.
Hmm.
Um, in your experience, like, have you found that there's a particular group that probably struggles a little bit more than others, or grasp, is unable to grasp
I
the
think they
information?
struggle in different ways.
Mm.
I think adult learners are some of my favorites. They're probably the first to give themselves the grace of, oh, yep, I missed that.
Yeah.
Whereas you're working with, a very young student, and they tend to get a little, uh, okay, a little frozen, a little
Yeah.
worried.
Yeah.
Can the aircraft respond? That kind of thing. And then you have the rushers that'll be like, oh, I got this. And then they get themselves in they're like turning hard using their rudder pedal. And it's like, well, you're actually skidding. You see that? That's not good.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
base
Mm.
final to turn.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's
So yeah, everybody's got their own little things, I think. And I do think the adult learners give themselves grace. The middle of the pack are rushing probably a little too hard. I found
mm.
myself doing that. I'm in that group, and sometimes I'm like, man, I missed something, or I rushed, and hey man, come on. Everyone's had that chalk set thing where you're like, full. You look down, you go, oh man, got to
Yeah.
turn off the engine and da da da. So
That's actually happened to me more recently than I would care to admit.
it happens to everybody. In figure skating, it's the split chin. Everybody hits the toe pick and falls down split chin.
Mm,
There's something in every discipline, every sport that's kind of like a unifying. Oh, you had it too? Yeah, you're gonna have me too.
yeah. No, that's funny, man.
So,
So, okay. Now, so we kind of talked a lot about your skating and you as a
mhm.
pilot and instructor. So now I want to talk a little bit more about Mark, the entrepreneur, the man, right? So what does your normal day look like? What does a normal day in your life look like?
Well, for me, being an entrepreneur, it was taking what we've had this conversation about skating, and
Right.
skating is very unique because you're really training your vestibular system, that the thing we talk about getting, disorientated. And this is how you met me too, is because, I came up with this system. When I
Hmm.
was learning to fly, I mean, this is early private, under 40 hours. And I'd be putting my head down and I'd be, oh, and I could sense it early and it'd be hard to, and I kind of, it's kind of like new as old. So my entrepreneur self came up with a system. This is a pretend leg, and it's got this magnet right here. And so I came up with a patent pending way to have the magnet on here and to have your EFB, because everybody pretty much has an EFB. It's got all the maps and everything on there. And
Right.
this lets you put it on your leg. But then, you imagine it's right here. So here I am, I'm flying around, I'm holding up, and I don't want to look down necessarily. And there are tilted options out there. But this is my patent pending, knee strap that lets you just put a little metal ring, or you can even use, um, the device. I have one size for the
Mm,
maglev ones, and it lets you be able to pick up your EFB, fly heads up, like I'm looking at you right now. Imagine
right.
you're my instrument. Fly heads up. This was actually the approach into Lakeland that you know so well now.
Yep.
And then, do it, look at my frequencies and drop it down. Another one that I've done on check rides too is I'm looking over at the pilot next to me. I was like, look, we got conflicting traffic, and I'm holding it up there. I'm in a 6-pack taking the check ride with a little 430. I don't have ADSB. I don't have a G1000.
Mm,
So this was an elegant solution to hold it up like a piece of paper. It's kind of new use of old ways. In the old days, you had, paper chart. You'd hold it up,
yeah.
hold it in your hand. You'd be flying on the yoke. You'd be holding on the stick, and then you put down the paper. And
Yeah.
so that's the situation where now I can have this on my leg, and then with that patent pending part, like I said, you can see it right through here.
Yeah.
So I can just drop it down, and then it easily lifts off.
Hmm.
And then the other side's way more, attached on that side.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah. So like Mark said, guys, we that's actually when we met at Sun and Fun. That was his display that he had set up. So mag drop. I can
hmm
attest. So I can actually personally attest. I actually did an IPC for a guy last week, doing some practice approaches, and that thing came in clutch with my
yeah,
my iPad. So
you're like,
yeah.
hey, like right here, go look at that.
Yep.
Yeah, this is I put this, these are a little epoxy inside this is one of those ones you get on the internet for like $5. You can put your EFB on your phone now. And then I've had one of the guys I had testing it, he actually puts it on his arm,
Okay.
because he's flying around CFI. He doesn't really need it. He's looking outside, and then it's every now and again, okay,
Hmm.
okay. And he uses it at the gym and whatnot. So it was using, this is the thing about, I was failing. I was putting my head down as I was learning, was getting off heading in altitude. And when I say, you know, I was in a flight school with very direct tolerances, but I was also training at KPI, which if you don't know KPI, it's a Bravo shelf at 1,200 feet, a sea level airport, and your traffic pattern altitude is 1,000 feet. So if you get off 50 feet, that's one thing. All of a sudden, you find yourself off 100 feet, and then your instructors get nervous. You
Hmm.
got conflicting traffic, 1,200 feet. You got Boeings going overhead, and yeah. So it's something where it's a narrow tolerance for a
Hmm.
person that's beginning to fly. And I was looking at it was funny because I have an adult learner, and they're 200 hours, but they don't fly that much over the
Hmm.
last 40 years. And they were asking me yesterday, how's my pattern? And us experienced CFI were like, point your nose to that. And like, you see it through the plane. You like
Right.
see yourself at that, whether in Florida here, it'll be like that hotel on the beach that, the Three Sisters, I call them because there's three of them sitting there. Aim at the Three Sisters, and all of a sudden the plane's still turning off the side. I'm like, are we pointed at it? No. And so you get these patterns like that. But I learned real quick with the tolerances, like, yeah, they weren't giving me forgiveness, which I didn't need. And if I'm going to be, this school was very professionally focused. And, I was like, I need a better way.
Mm.
This is like, I admitted I had a problem. And so I came up with Mag Drop so that I could, do better. And I think I showed you too. I give this is why they've been over here. Actually, I'll pivot just a little bit here for you. So I have these in there in the bag, but I gave you two of the metal ones just in
Yeah.
case it doesn't. And so this is my CFI iPad. So I go and I have it on the iPad mini. And
Mm.
that way it's anywhere. I had a takeoff stall with a student the other day, which is scary. You always have that story as a CFI, my student tried to kill me. And they, honest to gosh, didn't mean anything by it. Like,
Right.
it's rotate speed. We hit 55 and they pulled hard and they put the nose at 15 degrees, which was too much for the small aircraft. We were in a Piper 140. It was
Mm.
too much. And so the moment it started to stall, I relaxed the nose. I always tell people, because this is how you end up with a tail strike. If you fly it into a mountain, you're still flying the airplane. But if you're in a stall and you relax the yoke, it'll decrease the angle of attack and you're flying all of a sudden. So
Mm.
I pushed him forward just a little bit, decreased the angle of attack, but we didn't still have enough thrust yet. And so we slowly just got into ground effect, had a nice little, it was like the most minor bump. And then we climbed off at a much more, even radius.
Right.
But in that moment, I had my mag drop. I was starting to check frequency. This isn't the first lesson for him, but it was the first time he pulled that hard.
Mm.
And I was able to just drop it down and then grab on and do what I need to. So it's been a great system for me to utilize and pick it up. And like I said, been able to show people frequency, show traffic. You know, I've had friends where their ESP died. And I was like, well, here you can use mine. I don't need to undo a system. I
Right.
can just pick it up and hand it over.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, we'll have to plug your website. Um, yeah, we'll have to plug your website for sure. So yeah, you guys please go pick that up. Um, okay. Man, one thing I wanted to ask you. So how important, and this is really unique given your background, but how important is personal branding when your background already comes with some public recognition? So there's people that obviously know you and recognize you. So with something like MagDrop, did you find it easier maybe to, market, or did you kind of have to like reinvent yourself, so to speak, to separate yourself from Mark the skater and then entering into this arena, if you will?
I've really tried to go fresh on it. I mean, there's a lot in learning in this space, and any business plan. Being an athlete is, it's not the same as being a business person, or how you're running your series, your webinar, your podcast, and it has different attributes than other parts. And so I'm honestly still in the learning phase, and I've got some good
Okay.
friends that are helping me out, and I'm really grateful for all the support I'm getting. And I mean, I'm just happy to be here and talk aviation with you. And I really think that this product, MagDrop, can help people fly safer, fly more heads up. We always tell people looking outside, but
Yeah.
so much of our devices and everything is now down and strapped, and the 430, you're staring at it, trying to put in two frequencies and stuff like this. It's nice, actually. The new G1000s, all this Bluetooth stuff, you only have to do it once. Like a lot of the newer G1000s, you can put it in your iPad and send it to the
Oh
panel.
yeah,
You should
yeah,
still confirm it,
right.
but it's amazing that you're not dual entry.
Hmm. Yeah,
So.
absolutely.
So
Um,
no, I'm starting fresh, and I'm enjoying it. It's a good challenge, but and it's great to hear a great review. You said it's been helpful to you, and
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
been going well, I hope.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I'll recommend it to students and instructors alike, for sure. So
Awesome.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Magdrop.us is the website, and it's for sale on there. And I'm looking to crack into Amazon. That's a different system. It's actually funny. I had an Amazon account from the beginning of Amazon. I've been an Amazon seller forever. So
yeah.
now it's this new thing, and I'm like, I used to sell, my stereo. I had an old stereo I sold on Amazon. I sold stuff on Amazon. I have 100% rating, and it's so funny because I've been on
Oh,
Amazon forever.
yeah.
I was an OG. I
Yeah.
used to sell my textbooks.
Dang. Um, let's see here, man. Okay. Um, so now let's kind of get to the point where we kind of start to wrap this up a little bit here.
Okay.
Um, but I like to do kind of something fun with all of my guests where it's kind of like a rapid fire, but it's something I like to call clear for the option. So it's just
Clear for
something.
the option.
So it's
Got
just
it.
something fun where I kind of will pose you a question, little compare contrast, and you just kind of give me the first thing that comes to mind, and just something that's going to allow the people to kind of get to know Mark the guy, a little bit better. So, um,
Okay.
yeah, man. So with that being said, you are cleared for the option. What's your favorite aircraft you've ever flown?
So far, the DA50's been fun.
Okay. Any particular reason why?
It was fast.
It's fat. There
Sips
you go.
9 gallons an hour. It's
Oh,
fast. It sips 9 gallons an hour. Great flight characteristics. Very light stall. Still get used to the stick in the middle, but
yeah, yeah. That's awesome.
second place. I'd say the 206 is 206 to 210. I kind of call them the same. They're both, they're the Suburban of the Cessna family, and
Yeah,
both of them have been a lot of fun.
yeah,
And it's great when you can take. That's the one, and I say second place because that was the first time I had four people in a plane. No real heavy consist. And I'm trying to do takeoffs and landings in the pad, and I got four people in the plane. Me and him up front, and two in the back. And I'm like, damn, I have four people. This is the most people I've ever carried in a plane.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Um, okay, so let's say you're going on vacation, taking the wife, the family somewhere, window or aisle seat?
I'm now an Isler.
You're an
I
aisler?
used to
Okay.
be a yeah, and I think this is like, you grow up one step. I was a window all a kid, looking out, staring out. Now I'm an Isler,
Yeah,
and it's mostly because, just I'm bigger.
yeah,
I might use a restroom once. I
right.
actually might want to get up, stretch my legs.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. That's what I was gonna make the joke. Like for myself, I'm definitely an aisler because as I get older, go into the bathroom a little bit more frequently. So I got to be able to get up and get moving.
but I will
Um,
say on any red eye, it's right side. That's the way
yeah. Oh, the right side sleeper. Okay.
right side window.
Yeah.
It's only that side. That's my side of the bed, of the plane bed.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I got a fun one for you here. So hitting a power off 180 on the money, or landing your favorite move like a triple axle.
Power off 180.
Power off 180.
It is. It's my well, and this is the same kind of thing as the out on the window. Like doing a double axle, I could do that a couple years ago. 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I go out, I can do a double saddle, I can do a single axle. I ain't doing a double axle unless I want to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, I can. I did pairs. I did some pairs, adult pairs. I had a great time. I had a great partner with Stephanie, and her husband was accommodating. We did it like long distance, but
Hmm.
yeah, now power off 180, I can just sit there and I can see it, and I can still see myself doing triples. I can still sense that triple jump, but I can actually do a power off 180.
Yeah. There you go. Post flight meal or post competition meal?
Post competition meal.
Post competition meal. Okay. Uh, what's more
Post competition
exhausting?
meal, and
Competition?
part of that. Oh, sorry.
No, no, you're good. Please go ahead.
I think my thing hiccuped. So
Oh, got you. You were gonna say something else about the post competition meal, I think.
post competition meal, because usually you've been having really constrained. You've been having
Oh,
light meals.
yeah,
When you're doing
yeah,
something, I feel like you want to make sure there's space for the stomach to be strong, and you get done and you're celebrating and you've got a lot more room to pack it in.
yeah.
So
Oh,
post
yeah,
flight is, post flight, I might have a coffee, might, but yeah.
yeah. Nice. Favorite flight you've ever taken?
I would say the grace my wife gave me while we were on vacation in Hawaii. I did my commercial cross country, the day one in Hawaii. So I got
Wow.
to fly to the Big Island, and it's cool. You see the lava flows. I got to land behind a
Yeah,
Southwest jet from the mainland. And then it was funny because the guy I was with, he picked it up. The original instructor, she, it didn't work. She had something come up in her family. She had to go to the mainland. And this other guy was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And then I get talking with him, just like you, like, "Hey, okay, you've never met me before, but we're gonna go fly across a little bit of the ocean." And I got talking with him, and he had just hit his 1500. It was just going into Hawaiian Airlines. I was just headed off to do training and all this, and it was a great flight. And the coolest thing for him was he'd flown all these flights around, And we landed on, when we were coming back, we were picking the islands due, and Mokulele was just, or Molokai was, Molokai was just not winds favorable. It just wasn't. And he was like, well, let's check Lanai. And we checked Lanai, which is that little island. And my goodness, he's like, oh my gosh, I've never landed headed like southwest, like 140. I'm like, what? And so we did it. And it was really cool because it wasn't hard to line up on the base and turn in. But then when you take off on the touch and go, you're at 150 feet, and all of a sudden these cliffs come off. And it was like, whoa. And we saw whales, and then on the way
Wow.
back, we did, that's me. I'm still learning to be a pilot. You're in your commercial stage, and he was like, let's do, this. He showed me a maneuver coming into Honolulu where we come down, and then we pitch up, and then you just slip to land all the way back down. It was really cool, and I think
Wow.
it was fun for him to send him off to his 1,500 hours off to the big lines and to do one of these really cool, things you can do in a Cessna you're not going to do in a 737. And I
Yeah.
got to see it and experience it, and yeah, overall, there was just a lot of cool parts of it.
Man, that's amazing.
Hmm.
Wow. Um, okay. What um what is the biggest piece of advice for someone that's familiar with success was looking to transition into aviation? Like, what's the biggest piece of advice you would give someone right now?
It's going to be hard, and you're going to start over.
Yeah.
The persistence that got you big and something else is going to help you here, but you just got to be ready for that part of it.
Awesome. That's great advice, my friend. Hey, well,
All
with
right,
that,
so
you
my
were
so 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 my turn. So when I was
sure.
chair of Olympic athletes, we would always end and we'd say, "Okay, tell me a time in aviation that gave you pure joy."
Man. Um, I mean, I feel that. I'll be honest with you. I feel that pure joy every single time I take off. But I would
All right.
say, I would say, like, if I didn't like give you a specific time, I would say, my favorite flight was when I, during like you, commercial cross country, I actually had the opportunity to fly up to New York City and fly the Hudson corridor. Yeah.
Nice.
So I was with my instructor Trey.
Iconic.
Shout out to Trey. He's flying with the regionals now. But yeah, we got to go up to New York. We shockingly we called up New York approach. Like we asked to be cleared into the Bravo. Gave us the clearance into the Bravo right away. I think we maybe were there like in a perfect window where it just wasn't super busy. So they're like, hey, clearance to the Bravo, like maintain 1,500. We got to circle the Statue of Liberty like 3 times and fly through the corridor and went and landed. Got some pizza. I'd never been to New York City before, so that was pretty cool. And yeah, that was a great time. That was probably where I had the most joy and kind of like really brought everything like right there into my face why I started on this journey to begin with.
And you have the skill set to do that. That's the cool part. Like that's where you feel that accomplishment. You're taking all the things
Yeah,
you've learned and you put it into something like that. Great
yeah,
memory. That's awesome.
nah, nah, absolutely, man. So yeah, with that, man, you're cleared to land. That was great. Cleared to land, but
I'm going
yeah,
around.
yeah. Oh, you're going
Whee!
to. Hey, just don't go flaps 30 to 0.
Oh man, I'll never forget that one. I could have helped with that. Yeah, you
Yeah.
could have. No, but and again, that was a great learning experience because even when I lost all those, flaps were pretty efficient on the
Hmm.
172F. And so, it's just like reverse and then the training kicked in and, they watch the airspeed. So I'm pitching forward, even though I'm close to the ground, I'm pitching forward and I'm not stalling and he's not having to grab it and he's watching me and I'm already full power. So,
Yeah.
when your training kicks in, like when you go to New York and you got those calls and like it might have been just a normal day for them. That's
Yeah.
one of my favorite, one of the guys does that down at KPI. We had four of us trying to do night currency we wanted, it's 8,000 feet long at
Hmm.
KPI's 1836. And he's like, yeah, I can figure you guys out. Don't worry. This is a slow day for me. I'm from New York or Jersey or
Yeah.
whatever. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, any one of those guys like, no, you guys will have to stop taxi back. We're like, no, we just want to stop and go.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's
Well, thank
great,
you
man.
again. And I'm glad you enjoyed MagDrop. Magdrop.us. If you got anybody interested in it, I hope to make it safe for skies out there. So appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
and let me know. Maybe like I told you, if I'm hoping to fly up, I was looking at the flight plan. Hopefully, I'll be up in your neck of the woods, and we can go and we can do some Power F-180s.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. Please, let me know. I would be my pleasure.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. So yeah, magdrop.us, and then you're on social media as well? Do you want to plug your social
Yep.
media?
It's just magdrop.us on Instagram. Haven't got any of the other ones going. Like it's a slow roll.
Yeah, yeah,
Bringing it
yeah.
in, doing it right. So I'll be at
Gotcha.
Oshkosh this summer. I'm in Hangar D. So yep, should
Okay.
be good.
Nice. If you guys are there, man, go see Mark in Hangar D. But hey,
There
man,
you
this
go.
was great. This was great, my friend. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it,
Thanks, Ricky.
man. And look forward to this coming out. So don't go anywhere. We're just gonna do a quick little debrief when we go cold mic. But for everyone out there, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.